Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. Jazakallah so much for staying with us. Of course, it's been a week where the Government of National Unity's cabinet has come into focus, but a lot of the discussion has been the roles that some of these new ministers are going to take, and one of them, of course, is the Department of Basic Education. It's got a new minister, Siviwe Gwagube. She'll be taking it up, but she takes on a department and ministry filled with a lot of challenges. We've seen many difficulties in terms of various schools, especially schools within the townships and the rural areas where basic necessities are yet to be given for these schools. We're talking textbook, we're talking school safety. Let me welcome my guest. I'd like to introduce Mahfouz Raffee. He is a researcher at Equal Education. Mahfouz, assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, jazakallah for having me on your show, and assalamu alaikum to your listeners.
No, it's absolute pleasure. Mahfouz, it's clearly, of course, a different minister to the one that was there before. Minister Angie Motshekga, she was there for the 15 years from the first term of former President Jacob Zuma. The education facilities within South Africa, the challenges are ripe for everyone to see, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. So I'm from Equal Education, which is a mass social movement of learners, teachers, parents, and community members, and activists who fight for equal and quality education across the country. We're based in 5 provinces and have thousands of learners at various schools, mostly poor working class black schools in this country. And we've faced consistent challenges over several years in fighting for the most basic needs of schools at learners in these communities. Things like plain pit latrines where people have died. Things like really basic school safety infrastructure, basic fences, having enough desks in their classrooms, having enough textbooks for each learner. These are problems that we've been fighting for decades now. And while progress was made in the previous administration, they missed several deadlines. Plain pit latrines were supposed to be eradicated in 2016, and in 2024, there are still thousands of schools with plain pit latrines, especially in Limpopo, in the Eastern Cape. There's still hundreds of schools with no other form of sanitation but these pit toilets. And so it's something that we looking forward to the new government. Although progress has been made where it was several thousand and now there's just a few hundred left to eradicate, we want to see that prioritized and taken immediately. We want to see enough classrooms with enough teachers so that learners don't have to go to school in dilapidated classrooms when it's raining. Learners can't learn in an environment where the ceiling is leaking while they're at school, or where there are no windows to protect them from the cold. And so infrastructure delivery is one of the key priorities that we have. And ensuring equitable access to equal education so that learners can go into an environment that is actually a schooling environment where they can learn and access education as is their rights per the Constitution. And we hope and we demand from this new government that urgent prioritization needs to be taken to address the problems, especially facing the poorest learners across the country.
Mahfouz, let's touch on school safety. So when we look at the urban areas, stuff, for example, where there could be potential kidnapping or drive-by shootings or hijackings, so much of that. And then when we look at the rural areas, the fact that children have to cross rivers to go to school, that has to change, hasn't it? Because for too long, from both these divides, children have had to face these various challenges. How does this new government, how does this new basic education department and ministry solve this?
Yeah, indeed. School safety is a major concern across all strata of South African society. And in Western Cape, in particular, our learners who are organized here have a dedicated campaign arguing for school safety, because the problem is multifaceted. When you're at home, you might not be safe in the communities that you live in. On your way to school, it might have to cross dangerous areas. We know the problems of gang violence, particularly in Cape Town, see their way into schools. And then once you're at school, these problems are not divorced from the rest of the community. They are schools with where gangsters, I guess, see them as a recruiting ground, and their problems of school violence within schools among learners, problems of drug abuse, and it's a multifaceted problem that really needs a coordinated and collaborative government that can approach this in a holistic manner to solve this problem. Mm-hmm. One of the key issues that we have, and there's norms and standards of school infrastructure that require schools to have a certain amount of safety infrastructure to make sure that schools can somewhat be protected from the ills of maybe society and communities around them, and be a bit more safe within their schooling environment. And this is basic things like fencing, maybe, and one other thing, like having a security guard or a security room, cameras, things like this. That should be in all schools, so that we can assure learners that when they go to school, they are in a safe environment. Unfortunately, it is a big challenge to address. It is not one that the basic education can do alone. I think one key intervention, that besides for the infrastructure, that the Department of Basic Education needs to prioritize, making sure that learners do feel safe going to school, is scholar transport, especially in the rural areas, but all over, making sure they have safe passage to school. And another key intervention is within schools, making sure that learners have access to psychosocial support, that when they are faced with violence in the school, where there are incidences where people are being bullied, where if any trauma that occurs in a learner within whatever environment they're in, that they have support at the school level or at the district level within the education system to be able to deal with these problems and heal from problems that are associated with violence that's across our society.
Mahfouz, I just need to put in one more question. You've said it, that it's not just the basic education department that needs to act. There needs to be support. That support needs to come from National Treasury. I think both you and I know, and the viewers know, that the country is going through economic challenges, and we hope that, of course, this GNU can attract investment and more revenue for the country. But that's where National Treasury needs to come, isn't it? To try and make sure that there is funding for the basic education department for these challenges to be addressed.
Indeed, it is probably one of the major features that might impede learners' education. And unfortunately, what we've seen from Treasury over the past 6 years is, if we account for inflation and if we account for growing learner numbers, every year since 2019, the government has spent less money, given less money per learner each year. And this is a trend that needs to be reversed, because the burden of education, of getting to school, of having resources that you can learn in, whether it's a simple piece of paper, whether it's a textbook, that cannot fall on parents who are simply unable to afford it. We know the conditions of this country. We know that people are very impoverished across different provinces. So Treasury needs to step up. They need to prioritize. South Africa has signed onto a UN convention to ring-fence the children's budget. And what that means is that ensuring that education is prioritized within the budget, so that people can legitimately access their rights to education. And this is something that we are fearful for in the upcoming government. If they do not prioritize social spending, if they do not prioritize spending on the people who need it most and protecting their basic fundamental rights to housing, rights to education, rights to healthcare, then we stand at the precipice of something that would be extremely dangerous for South African society. And so Treasury really needs to commit to protecting the rights and working with basic education to ensure that these rights can be realized in a timeliest manner.
Mahfouz, unfortunately, time has come up. Jazakallah so much for joining us here on News in Focus on Hilaal TV. Much appreciated. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
That's Mahfouz Raffee. He's a researcher at Equal Education. Yes, we hope that this new ministry will be able to make the necessary changes, because everyone, as per the Bill of Rights, as per the UN Convention, deserves equitable and good education. We hope that this minister will be able to make it. That is, of course, none other than Siviwe Wahube. After the break, we're going to be turning our attention to a press conference that happened earlier on, which was broadcasted on Hilaal TV this morning. And one of that, of course, was mentioned is that SAHUC, the South African Hajj and Umrah Council, announced that South African pilgrims who undertook the Hajj 2023, which was last year, will be refunded a portion of their 5-day costs because of poor service delivery as ex gratia statement. So Muaz Kasu's press conference will be up next. That's all we have for you here on News in Focus. From myself, Ross Patel, the rest of the team in Johannesburg, Jazakallah for staying with us this week. And we'll, of course, see you on Monday. Have a good weekend, and most importantly, a safe and a warm one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.